fuck? Okay, something is taking control of my microphone. I didn't.
Yeah, you got way louder.
Something just was like, no, blast it. Hey, welcome to the podcast. My name is This is the Good Games podcast, by the way. And it's been so long, I forgot how to do the intro. And my name is James.
Okay, I'm Leo.
And we're back. And I am I'm well aware if my audio sounds louder than normal. I'm aware that there's an audio problem right now, and I've tried everything I can think of to fix it. We're just going to go ahead with the recording.
James is blaming his loud voice on technical difficulties.
So I'm trying to sit even farther back. I'm trying to sit back from the microphone, so my voice quality is probably going to be echoey and bad, but I don't want to drown out Leo.
Yeah, sound good.
I don't know what the problem is. Audio engineers who are familiar with OBS, please help. I don't know why my microphone is so loud in the mix. I've tried everything to turn it down, and anyway, whatever, doesn't matter. Hey Leo, did you play any video games recently?
I've been playing a lot of Final Fantasy Tactics.
That's fantastic. That's one of my favorites.
A little bit of history with this game for me. I had the PlayStation 1 pretty early on, like maybe like the next year after it came out. So I was there when Tactics first came out on the PS1, and I definitely played it like very early on as a kid. I was like 10-ish years old or less. I don't remember exactly what year, but back then, as a young kid, I wasn't very good at a game like Tactics. I failed miserably at it. I couldn't figure out like how the game worked well enough to like really play it and complete it. But I loved the atmosphere. I loved the art. I loved the setting. Sort of that medieval sort of high fantasy setting is all Leo all day. Mm-hmm. Came back to it years later in like high school or college years, and thought, man, I'm older now. I understand games better. Let me have a go at it. And then I totally messed up like a save file like right before.
Oh yeah,
where everyone fails.
Oh yeah,
which is like a super big like difficulty check that if you like asks you to save right before. And I was an idiot and like overwrote my like one save, or maybe I had two saves, but the second one was like way early. So I messed up my save and like couldn't beat the guy who like one hits you. And so I never came back to it. And I was like, every 10 years, I feel like I tried it. And so now is the third attempt, 20-something years later. And guess what? I finally finished Final Fantasy Tactics.
Hey, way to go.
I loved it, except that ending was ridiculous.
Okay, we'll get to the ending. But I think you already identified probably two of the biggest failings of this game. Number one, this game does a really, 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 really shitty job of telling you how to play it. It's a complicated game. There's a lot of systems, and there's not really a great tutorial. There's no explaining anything. There's just a lot of like numbers and symbols and like just like bullshit. And
I mean, there is an entire tutorial area of the main menu that you can go to and watch.
Yes,
content there.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely the worst type of tutorial because you're just watching a video, right? You're just like watching a video of a battle happening, and it's like this, you press this to do this, and it's not interactive at all. It's fucking awful. Also, the UI in this game is fucking terrible. Just from like, it's really bad from a design standpoint, because like you want all your big, most important numbers and information to be the biggest elements on the screen, and you kind of want to like throw back all the stuff that's not important, like either don't display it or have it really small. The biggest fucking number on the screen is the terrain elevation, which I can't even stress how much that doesn't fucking matter 99% of the time. And especially like in the early game, like do not pay attention. There's this huge fucking number in the top right hand of the screen that's not fucking important at all.
I mean, I think what's worse about the UI is just like they're like stacking panes, kind of that like
yes.
on top of each other.
Yes.
So if you want to get to a specific thing, you got like 5 different things stacked on top, and then you have to.
Yes.
Okay, like all right. Later on, one of the classes that I've so they changed the names of certain things, but in this game, it's called the arithmetician. I think it's called the calculator.
Yep.
And in that they do care about like terrain levels and stuff, depending on what math you're trying to target people.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
But the most annoying part was like if I wanted to like see what targets I would hit if I tried like one attribute for math, and then you have to choose the spell, so that pane goes on top, and then you get to see who it is, and you have to go all the way back to the first choice and go. It's just like, man, like UI probably has not aged well the most of this game.
Right. It's very like early like 90s era Microsoft Windows, where like you open a window and then a window opens a window and a window opens a window, and you just got so many fucking windows, and you're like, ah.
Yeah, and if you want to move laterally, you have to like back up.
Yeah, back out. Change one thing, go forward. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other biggest failing of this game is there are multi-part battles. Okay. One thing real quick is the difficulty curve of this game is all over the fucking place. You'll have like
it's like easy skill check.
Yeah. Easy. Like you're not even taking damage in battles. Easy, like cruise it, like breezy, easy. Impossible. Brick wall of impossible. What am I even supposed to fucking do against this? Yeah. And then easy.
Now you grind.
Right.
Right.
But also combine that wild fucking roller coaster difficulty curve with these multi-part battles, which ask you whether or not you'd like to save after every part of the battle. And logically, you would think, yes, I would like to save after every part of the battle. The thing the game doesn't tell you is you should be saving into different slots. Because in your early playthrough, you referenced saving and being fucked on one of those brick wall difficulty skill check things. It's not even a skill check. It's just I don't know, whatever. It's basically a check of, hey, did you configure your party correctly to overcome this bullshit boss?
Sometimes, but I mean, sometimes it's literally just like have your party members leveled up enough to get like the necessary skills, or items at least,
Level definitely matters, but I think you can be like on average level and just not have your party configured correctly to fight a boss, and you'll get fucking owned. And you're like, well, what the fuck?
That boss in particular that I'm thinking of, you're probably talking about the same one. It's like Wygraph or whatever.
Wygraph, yeah. The first time you fight Wygraph, and you get the one-on-one with Ramza. The other really tough one is you fight Gafgarion twice. In both times you fight him is pretty hard.
Yeah, I do recall that too. But Wygraph in particular was tough.
Oh, yeah.
It was like he moves first, and he one-hits you for like 175 HP.
Yep.
And like at that time, my character had like, maybe like 200. It depends on which class you have or whatever.
Yeah.
But like even when I finally I went back and grinded a bit and like, yeah, cool. And like you said, unless my party's configured right, it won't work because I forgot to put on auto potion. It's like if you don't have auto potion, you're not going to like recoup the damage the guy just did to you. So like you can't, unless you can kill him back the next hit, he's going to hit you for the same damage again. But if you have auto potion, you almost like negate all the damage he does as long as you can survive that first hit. Yeah, it's tricky. That in particular, that fault of the game, like not telling you to save into a different file or just the whole thing differently, ruined my experience.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That is I think Wygraph and Gafgarion are two major, just like, hey, fuck this game. Actually, fuck this game, because your only save file is right before this impossible brick wall of a boss, and you're like, well, I guess I'm fucked then.
The weird part, and maybe this is just me, is I still loved the game. Like I still, it's like I wish every time I definitely didn't play it anymore. Like I was like, screw this, like you said, like whatever, I'm done with it. But I still was like in my top 3 Final Fantasy games. Despite that, I mean, it's just like every other part of this game is so good.
Yeah. Well, you also brought up I think segue into what this game does correctly is there are so many valid like party compositions that work.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that are totally fucking busted. Like I think arithmetic calculator is busted as fuck.
So good.
Yeah. It's insanely good. But there's so many like, oh, if you take Tactics has a like a job system where and this is a recycled idea from Final Fantasy 3, Final Fantasy 5, Final Fantasy I think 12 has a job system. There's a lot of jobs in this game, and a lot of them are unlockable. So as you gain levels in other jobs, you unlock new jobs, and certain combinations of jobs will unlock other jobs. Anyway, the fun part of this game is figuring out, I mean, you can go online and look it up which combinations are busted, but I had the most fun when I didn't know this game by heart, just like experimenting, like, hey, does this work with it? Oh my god, you can do stupid amounts of damage if you combine A with B or whatever. Yeah, you're like, is this
one of the weird things with this game though, and I didn't notice it until this playthrough, but like that is probably like the main, like that's the core of the game, right? Is like exploring the different jobs and classes and setting up your abilities perfectly, like having a black mage who's using the arithmetician abilities because the black mage moves more often, right? Like this cool little like setups like that I figured out. But then there's like certain like player characters or like non-player characters that are like crucial to the story. And they're like just like, what is his name? Like the Sid, this version of Sid.
Orlando or Sid,
like what job he is, but it's like literally a combination of like the 3 like best jobs in the game.
Yeah, no, he is absolutely fucking busted. So is Agrius. Agrius is busted, but not as busted as he is. Yeah.
But there's certain classes that only like special characters have, and those classes are really just a combination of all these other classes and all of their abilities pretty much. And it's like, what the hell, like.
And I mean, you don't get Sid until like the end of the game, but like once you get him, you could solo the rest of the game with Sid. Like you don't even need any other party members. He's so unstoppably insane. So like usually on my more recent playthroughs, I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna use Sid this playthrough. Like, and then I'm like, this is kind of hard. I'm gonna actually throw in a little Sid here just to get past this one part.
This might be my favorite. Sid is in like every Final Fantasy, right? This might be my favorite incantation of Sid next to like FF14.
Yeah.
Pretty legit.
But yeah, the job system, fucking around with that, very fun.
But it definitely made me feel like, hey, how come I don't get a freaking Holy Dark Knight combo class? Like I want.
You can. In War of the.
I want
What's
like
that?
The Arc Knight. I want like the Arc Knight that's like a combination of like holy and dark, like all in one or something. Like the enemy, one of the bosses is that.
Oh, okay. I know you can unlock Dark Knight for Ramza.
Right. Yeah, but it's like only Dark Knight.
Yeah. I mean, it's still busted though. You can unlock it.
Dark Knight's busted, but like I mean, there's like the end. It was like near the end. It was the guy with the silver hair. It was basically like Sephiroth, like the tactic version of Sephiroth. He was one of the demon people.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
I forget his name, but
Elmendor.
Yeah. Elmendor was like 3 classes in one. He was like Arc Knight or something, and he had basically like Holy Knight, Dark Knight abilities, and like Samurai bullshit, like all in one. And I was like, dude, how come I can't? That's the only thing is like, I love the jobs and stuff, but like there was like the game would be like, yeah, but you can never be this good. Screw you, game.
There's absolutely a lot of busted shit in this game. If you there's a lot of busted combinations, but then there's just busted characters. Yeah, where it's like, hey, this character's fucking amazing. Here you go.
Yeah.
And what did you think of
jobs and well, you started lagging quite a bit there.
Oh yeah. I think my internet connection is shit, and or Jess is streaming something. I dropped you a couple times, so just let me know if I lag out. I'll edit around this.
Damn it, Jeff.
What were you saying?
I was, before you started talking, I was about to say that it is interesting how the game, encourages like exploration of jobs and classes, and having like different recruits that you sort of level up and work on getting their different jobs. But then it just shows these like these characters that are like more special, and you pretty much just like never use like recruits.
Yeah, that's kind of a bummer. Because once you get the like special characters, you're like, oh, I'm gonna get rid of my like normal guys. Then these guys are way better.
Yeah. The only normal guy I think I left, I kept as the arithmetician, just because they were pretty much every magic class combined.
Yeah. Now, you were a big fan of the Tactics Ogre games, Ogre Battle. What did you? Because as far as I know, this is the same team that did Final Fantasy Tactics. So, as someone who's played a lot of the Ogre games, how does this stack up?
So I don't know what it is about the art style that like FF Tactics and Ogre Battle.
Yeah, love this art style.
I just fucking love it. It's like literally my favorite artwork in any history of any game. You know what? I might say it here on the stream, on the Good Games podcast. I might change my number one favorite Final Fantasy game from FF8 to FF Tactics. It might, after this playthrough, after completing the game, I might have to officially make that adjustment. Because like, as I'm playing, I'm just like,
well done.
As I'm playing it, I'm like, this game is just, it's just everything to me. It's like, it's beautiful. But anyway, Ogre Battle, kind of a similar thing. Like the visuals really capture me. The setting, like the intrigue, the Game of Thrones kind of like political.
Oh, it's absolutely. This is Game of Thrones before Game of Thrones. Yeah.
Right. The rumors coming through the rumor mill and the taverns, and I love that you in both games you can kind of manage your army and recruit people, and the army management is part of it too, and the strategic battles. However, I think Final Fantasy Tactics gets one up over the Ogre Battle series, at least the one that I mainly played, Ogre Battle 64, because the actual combat was in Ogre Battle 64 was like hands free. It was like these two units collide or whatever, and then like the game auto maths it for you and you're done. Whereas Tactics, there's still a little bit more minute control over the actual battle. So, but I mean, both are going to be in my top 5. So
but yeah, the you touched on the setting, the story, the Game of Thrones story. There's definitely a lot of political intrigue. You have these main families, and this guy's the brother of this guy, and the father is this guy, but he's going to stab this guy in the back. And there's so many characters. And you're like, oh my god, who is this guy again? Is that guy's brother? Who's he working for? Is he a good guy, bad guy? I had the same problem with Game of Thrones, trying to remember who everyone was.
It's impressive, but it has the same problem Game of Thrones. Pivotal climactic scenes lose their luster when I'm like kind of don't remember who certain people are.
Right, yeah. You're like, oh, I got to rescue this guy. Wait, what's the importance of this guy again? I don't... The other thing I was going to say is you talked about the setting, the art style, the fucking music, soundtrack to this game. Very good.
Oh, yeah.
Hitoshi Sakimoto fucking killing it.
When you get to that ending scene, that I think it's like right before the credits, and this might be only in the War of the Lions version, but like it's like Ramza, I think, talking about like, oh no, okay. I mean, can we talk about the ending? Like, spoiler alert.
Okay, let's get into it. Let's talk about. All right, here we go. We're talking about the ending to the story. If you don't want to be spoiled, skip ahead. I don't know, 10 minutes. Yeah, probably.
Okay, so in War of the Lions version, at least, there's like an extra cinematic, I think, before the actual end credits, where it's in the point of view of Oran's, descendant, who's actually telling the story of. Final Fantasy Tactics, I guess, and the music is just like climbing to this big climactic, like, and then like Ramza, like was the one who saved everyone, and it's like, and then at the end it's like, the story told by, I forget his name.
Oran, but no, Oran's descendant is like as Kalam or Alakazam or some shit, who's the same guy who delivers all the tutorials to the game. So if you go into the tutorial, you're like, oh, you're the narrator and the tutorial giver. Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So let's talk about that ending, man.
Let's talk about that ending.
Doozy. First of all, to set this kind of a good segue, because the Game of Thrones-esque scenarios and the complexity and the number of characters, definitely it's hard to follow sometimes, like the war part of the game, like whenever they're like, oh, such and such houses are battling each other, I was kind of like, who, right? But then there's certain characters that definitely stand out, and so like Rams's brothers, getting at it towards the end, like I was like, oh shit, like things are going down. You always know Rams's sister, and you kind of remember the girl that Delita's off with, like
Ovelia
in the beginning of the game, and I think they kind of reference her throughout the game. But then Oran, or is it Oran or
Oran, Oran, whatever, Oran,
is like just like the sweetest guy. you run into him, you save him, and then he's like, and Sid is a badass, and he's like Sid's like son or whatever, and you're like, cool, such a cool guy, and then they're just like casually mentioned like, oh yeah, and then they fucking hanged him.
I know. The ending of that game is always like, yeah, what a cool ending, and then they fucking burned Oran at the stake. Oh, what the fuck? That was a cool character. Why did he die?
Oh my god.
They burned him for being a heretic. And
it's unclear what happens to all the characters. Like they all like pretty much like go to the Nether Realm, and defeat Ultima, and then like, oh, maybe they all died, but wait, there's Ramza and Alma, I saw them, and then it's like happy ending maybe, and then like fucking Oran was burned at the stake, and then Delita like kills it. It's like, what is going on?
So it seems pretty clear that Alma and Ramza live. Probably.
Right.
Oran, that poor bastard, gets burned. For no fucking reason.
For telling the truth.
Fuck that character, I guess. And then Ovelia gets killed by Delita in the end. In the end, she was just a pawn. And then Delita becomes the king. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so weird. What a weird ending. It's depressing as fuck, man.
Well, it's kind of I don't know. It's kind of kind of bittersweet because so the whole game is set. It's very much the Iron Throne. Who's going to be the king of the land? You have these two big kingdoms fighting each other. But wait a second, there's a third party. There's the church. You got these two big kingdoms fighting, but the church is behind it all, pulling the strings. And then it's revealed later on that the church that everyone worships, the god is actually a devil, and the devil is pulling the strings of all of the players in the story. So Delita wants to be king. In the end, he gets what he wants. Ramza wants. Ramza is kind of if Ned Stark was the actual protagonist for the entire series of Game of Thrones, because he basically just sticks up for justice. So he uncovers this whole plot of the church to summon the devil, basically. So his mission becomes first he wants to overthrow the monarchy, even though he is a royal. And then he's like, oh, actually, my goal is to stop summoning the devil. But he's like ultimately not interested in, the fame or the glory. He doesn't want the honor. He doesn't want to be king. He doesn't want any of that shit.
He's doing what needs to be done.
Exactly. He's just a fighter for justice. So yeah, he goes down. The actual guy who saved the world is completely forgotten in the history books, which is the framing device of the entire story. They say
that in the beginning. Right.
In the beginning, he's like, hey, let me tell you something. The church doesn't want you to hear this shit. I got the real scoop on the truth of what happened so many years ago. Here's the story of the Zodiac Braves, which is Ramza and his party.
Kind of unbelievable that this Oren's descendant telling this story would who's going to believe that? Like, why? why would anyone believe this story we're hearing now about Ramza also actually being the hero that we deserves? And
I don't know. It's up to you to believe it or not. I don't
they
know.
don't burn this guy at the stake for the same shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I don't know. But it is cool. You get halfway through the game, you get what essentially is the framing device for the story of the game. You get the Durai papers, which is what Oran is burned for. It's basically the truth that the church is trying to summon the devil, which is what is used to start the story in the beginning. It's kind of an interesting. Yeah, I don't know.
That's what I mean. Like, this is the next Durai, this guy, and he's probably gonna get burned at the stake. This is gonna be a vicious cycle.
Yeah, I mean, probably. Yeah, that's why he's trying to spread the story.
Spread the good faith, I guess.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. It's very interesting. And, I mean, it is cool that, like, from the very beginning, they're pretty much telling you, like, this isn't going to be the best ending because the history doesn't know anything about this guy that you're.
Yeah, exactly. Let me tell you the story of this guy that history forgot.
Yeah. So it's not going to end like super cheery.
Right. You know from the get-go he's not going to be the king. Yeah.
But the worst part, I think, is that, like, he has his childhood friend, Delita, that is the one who's really taking the stage and becoming king, and, is the one that the history books will remember. And then Delita even, like, you just find out is just an asshole and is using everybody, even the girl that he, like, loved.
Yeah, well, like, Delita is kind of. It's funny because he's kind of the tragic Shakespeare character because in the beginning he gets so mad that the nobles, the people of royal birth, the noble people are using the commoners, and his whole motivation is that his sister is killed basically for no reason, in order for the noble folk to advance their cause. And he's like, hey, this is bullshit. People, the nobles are using the commoners, but he's, his ultimate character flaw is he's like, hey, I'm going to get to the top and I'm going to overthrow the system and fuck all this shit. But in order to get there, he's climbing and using everyone. He becomes what he sought to destroy.
He becomes that which he hated most.
Exactly. He became his own enemy. Yeah. It's a good. I don't know. I think
that's a very advanced story. That's
great,
well-written story.
Really well-written story. If you can hang in there with all the fucking characters and really try to parse what's happening scene to scene. Yeah. And there's also like a weird, because it starts with like, hey, I'm going to tell you the story of, this guy that history forgot who saved the world. And then it starts halfway through the story and they're like, actually, wait. We got to go way back to the beginning. Because remember, the tutorial is halfway through the game. And then it's like, actually, we're going to start like 10 years prior to this point.
Right.
So there's like flashbacks and it's a whole fucking.
With a catch up with like where you started. Yep.
Yeah. Super fucking good game. I'm glad you enjoyed it. It's got like we said at the top of this discussion, it's got some big flaws, but if you hang in there, it's a really good story.
Squaresoft, if you're listening, Square.
Oh my God.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Come on, give us like a Tactics like reimagining or something like.
I want Tactics re-released because Leo, how did you play this game? Oh, you played it on an iPad.
Yeah.
There's no great way to play War of the Lions if you want to play it like on console or on PC. You fucking can't. You have to play it on an iPad or your phone.
It wasn't my favorite because like you would think that like touching stuff would be faster to get through that like shitty UI. But it actually isn't because I think it's like so big. I'm like, go like click this item, click this item, and then click this item. It actually felt slower. Like if I just had like a PlayStation controller, I could be like and like get through the menus faster. So yeah, I still would love like maybe a War of the Lions release on Steam or something. But
oh my God,
I just want like a remake, a complete like.
There is out on Switch right now. You can go play what Square Enix is calling Project Triangle Strategy, the latest in Square's quest to become the company who sucks the most at naming their products. But Project Triangle Strategy very much seems Final Fantasy Tactics influenced at the very least. I'd recommend go playing that demo on the Switch to see if you like it. I guess that's one of my endorsements early. Project Triangle Strategy, the demo. The full game should be out next year, I think.
Did you try the demo?
Yeah, I loved it. It was great.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's fucking great. Hey, are we done talking about tactics, by the way?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, great. Hey there, you listening to this? You can support this podcast on Patreon. We have a Patreon, and all of the links should be appearing on the screen. On the screen, you say, but I'm listening to this on my favorite podcasting device. Yes. We are also on most major podcasting platforms, but we also have a YouTube page. If you want to see our big ugly faces, you can go log into our YouTube channel and watch us talk about video games. You can also
on podcasts. You can find the links in the
description.
No, there's a word for that when you're on a podcast.
Doobly doo.
There's like a bunch of doobly doo is usually what people say, but there's like a little section there with a bunch of links.
Yeah. Well, check them out. You can also support this podcast by subscribing, giving us a thumbs up, giving us 5 stars, giving us some comments, sending us some emails. Our email address is goodgamescast@gmail.com. Send us your favorite character from Final Fantasy Tactics. Mine, I don't know. Mine might actually be Delita. I don't know. I really like. I like Delita. I like Agrias. I like Delita.
Hold on. How do you like Delita, but then don't like Squall? Because it basically felt like Tactics.
What?
Squall.
No, Delita's not Squall. What? How is Delita Squall?
Broody. He was against.
He's broody. Yeah.
Against the system. He didn't care about anybody but himself.
Okay. I get that. Yeah, but Delita had like strong drive and motivation, where Squall had neither of those.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, Delita's like, hey, I'm gonna overthrow the system and become king. Squall is like, everything sucks.
Yeah. My favorite character is probably Sid.
Oh yeah, he's badass, man.
Yeah, I mean he's just too badass not to love, really. Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about our top 5 favorite tactical strategy games.
Mm-hmm.
My number 5 is probably probably one of the most popular or well-known tactical strategy games, which really re-revolutionized the genre back almost a decade ago. XCOM: Enemy Unknown. It's kind of the I don't know, father of the repopularization of tactical strategy games. It's good. It's kind of basic color by numbers tactical strategy game, right? It's you have an army of units, you level up your units, you go combat to combat and try to shoot everyone.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's good. It's very good. Check it out.
That one's on my list too. But before that one, I gave it a kind of an honorable number 5 slot to Advance Wars.
Oh, fuck yeah.
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 It's a little bit less, technically than everything else on the list, but it has a lot of the similar feeling of Ogre Battle and stuff, especially just kind of a higher level zoom out tactical strategy.
I have never played Advance Wars, and I'm so excited for the Switch remakes because I will be playing Advance Wars 1 and 2 for the first time later this year, and I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, I'm excited to play through those again. Yeah, they're really nice, man. It was really fun games.
Hell yeah.
Very smooth.
My number 4 is, I think, the most accessible game on this list, and it's probably also the most overlooked game. So I think a lot of people, myself included, saw the title and was like, no thanks, I'll pass. It's Mario Cross Rabbids, and it's actually pretty smart. It's pretty smart, pretty easy, but pretty accessible. So if you're like, hey, I'm not really sure about this tactical strategy genre, I would recommend Mario Cross Rabbids. It's it's you manage a team of guys, you upgrade them, whatever. The smartest thing this game does is, hey, remember in XCOM, the worst part about that game is when you'd line up a shot and it was like 97% chance to hit, and you're like, fuck yeah, boom, miss. Oh, what the fuck? I was counting on that. And Mario Cross Rabbids, if you're out in the open, it's 100% chance to hit always. If you're in cover, it's 50% chance to hit. And if you don't have line of sight, it's 0. So it's always either yes, no, or 50-50. That's it. That's the only things that ever is. And I loved that, because when you take that 50-50 shot, you don't feel like an asshole when you miss it. You're like, well, it was a 50-50.
That's fair, right?
Yeah. And it's just, it's cute, it's colorful, it's got, crazy characters. If you're not into, the army, military, XCOM, or the, knights and wizards and medievalness of Final Fantasy Tactics, I would recommend Mario Cross Rabbids for something more colorful and cartoony.
Well, my number 4 goes to XCOM, so I guess we've already talked about that.
Yep.
That was the first game that when it came out, I was like, oh man, it's been a long time since I've seen something as civilized as this. I loved it. I'm surprised.
My number 3 is last year? No, fuck, it's 2 years ago. 3 years ago now? How old is Fire Emblem Three Houses? Is it 3 years now? When did that game come out? I don't know. Doesn't matter.
2 years.
2 years, 2019? I can't remember when that game came out. Fire Emblem Three Houses. So one of the problems with a lot of these tactical strategy games is when you're building your army, not a lot of the members of your army get a lot of character development. Like in Final Fantasy Tactics, your like random characters, your no-name characters literally get 0 development. They're just not part of the story. Same thing with XCOM. I mean, they're part of your battles, but they're not part of the story. Fire Emblem Three Houses successfully navigates that, where you have a big team of characters that are all in your army, but almost all of them have big character development. There's like a whole there's like a dating mini game. If you want to romance these characters, you can like get them gifts, you talk to them. They have like schedules. You can, there's this whole sort of there's literally like a romance dating game in there, but there's this whole social aspect of like, hey, let's get to know different members of the army. And, if you put these two characters together because they've spent so much time together, now they'll bond and they'll have special attacks, or they'll get better stats or whatever. There's that. There's also the replayability of Three Houses is really high because, as the title suggests, there are literally 3 houses of this school that you go to, and the characters which make up your army are completely different, and the story is completely different depending on which house you select. So I'll go back and replay Three Houses sometime because the story is apparently pretty different. I got I was Edelgard all the way. I was Dragon Lady, Daenerys Targaryen all the way, and got a pretty wild ending. So I want to go back because like they don't explain any of the god stuff. Anyway, I don't know. Whatever. Spoilers for that game, I guess.
I do remember like there's like a random like complete change halfway through with the dragon story. Like
yeah. Oh, big change. Yeah.
It blows up in your face. Yeah, the fact that you said like different characters, like matching them up and how they do, reminded me that we didn't really talk at all about like the Zodiac element of tactics, which is like, a more subtle.
Yeah, and that's one of the big. Well, it's relatively big on the screen. These Zodiac symbols. And most of the time when I play tactics, I cannot hold in my brain which Zodiac symbols are strong against other ones, or even what the symbols are. I'm like, is that Cancer, right. Libra? Yeah. What's strong against Libra? Was Taurus a Libra? Who fucking cares? I just completely ignore that system most of the time.
But the interesting thing is I'm playing through Final Fantasy 14, and the Zodiac elements come into play a lot there too. And there's like, there's kind of like some fan theories that it's all sort of part of a similar universe. And in fact, in the expansion I'm playing through now, Stormblood, there's even a raid series where you actually, it's called like Return to Ivalice.
Yeah,
you actually get to play through a reimagining of the tactics characters, so and the things that happen. So I'm hoping to go see like 3D, FF14 Ramza and Delita soon. I'll let you know how.
I would. That is the one quest line in 14 that I'm interested in. I think you actually go back to Orban Monastery at some point.
Oh, that'd be cool. Anyway, I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
Anyway, my number 3 goes to Into the Breach, indie release by the same people who made FTL that we've reviewed it on this podcast, and it is a fantastic tactical strategy game.
My number 2 is Into the Breach. It's a fantastic tactical strategy game. We did a whole episode on it. Just go watch that episode if you care to listen to what we think about that game. It's great.
It's good. It's a good game. My number 2 goes to Ogre Battle 64. Magnus, still probably in my top 3 favorite protagonists of any Japanese RPG. He's just a badass with a big sword and purple hair. And he could kick Ram's ass like all day. Like,
right, yeah.
But for all the reasons I said before, it's very similar, intrigue, plot lines, and artwork and music. And I think almost like the artwork, story, and music from Ogre Battle I like more. But like the overall gameplay I like more in tactics.
Yeah, I can see that.
But Ogre Battle, like, that just hits like a Ogre Battle 64. Just a soft spot that just brings tears of joy.
My number 1 we just talked about for 20 minutes. Final Fantasy Tactics. Yeah. It's fucking great.
It has yet to be dethroned as the definitive tactical strategy game.
You know what? This should, I want to throw out either Final Fantasy. I want to throw out either Final Fantasy 11 or 14. I am one of those people that don't think that those should have ever been like one of the mainline Final Fantasy game. I want to throw out like Final Fantasy 11 and just call that Final Fantasy MMO, and we can just rename Final Fantasy Tactics as Final Fantasy 11, or wherever it fits in the number. Like, this deserves to be a numbered entry. Yeah. A lot more than some of the numbered entries deserve to be numbered entries. This is a fucking great game.
Yeah. That's a fair point. It is. Yeah. It is. And like I said, you heard it here. I think it has, surpassed my undying love for FF8 has finally withered. The flame has been blown away, or some other poetic thing. I don't know, but I think Tactics might have dethroned 8 for me after playing through it. It is just it's just a really good game all the way around.
Yeah.
And fits that perfect like Leo aesthetic too.
Now, did you do any of the optional shit? Did you do any optional dungeons?
Yeah, I know of them, and I had an opportunity to go and definitely did my studying, off on YouTube Worlds and stuff of the extras, and all this stuff. I never really care for doing that kind of stuff in most of the games. My attention span with most games is short enough that if I don't just play through the main story, I'll probably not finish it. So you're already sort of stretching my attention span.
Yeah.
But I did happen to pick up, I think, random on accident, the character from one of the other advanced Game Boy Advance Tactics.
Oh yeah. I think in the War of the Lions version, he's actually mandatory, because I think you get you get from 12 you get Balthier.
Yes, Balthier, yeah.
And then you get the kid from was it Advance? I think it's one of the Final Fantasy Tactics Advance games.
Yeah, that's the kid I'm talking about, Ludos or something.
Yeah. And he's one of the game hunters or something.
Those games were pretty great too, and they added this law and judgment system. Mm-hmm. It was pretty interesting.
I never liked those games that much.
They weren't as good. They weren't as good as the original, but at least they were trying to keep the tactics love going. We haven't seen anything related to FF Tactics.
I know. I want this Project Triangle strategy to be good and sell well, so that we can get more of this type of game. Yeah.
More tactics love.
Hell yeah, man. What was your number 1? Tactics?
Oh yeah.
Okay, I figured. I figured, yeah, it's a great fucking game.
It's really good.
I don't know what else to say about it.
Go play it.
Go play it. Great soundtrack. I said it earlier, but I'm gonna say it again. Great fucking soundtrack.
What's the best like medium to play tactics? Like,
I would argue, yeah, because that's the biggest problem right now is there's no way to play it. I would argue go get yourself a PSP emulator and get a PSP ROM of Final Fantasy Tactics War of the Lions, which is a remake for the PSP. Yeah, it's got these really, really nice like animated cutscenes. It's like I don't know. They look really nice, and they've got more jobs in the game. They rebalanced the game a little bit. I mean, there's still absolutely busted shit, but it's rebalanced a little bit. And the other thing they did is they completely retranslated everything from the game.
Which a lot of the names of things changed,
which confuses me because I still remember like some of the characters' names change. Like in the beginning of the game, Ramza fights under the banner of the Northern Sky, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and in the original PS1 version, he fights for the Hokuten, but they retranslated Hokuten as the banner of the Northern Sky, which sounds
the Northern Sky and the Southern Sky, which is like
which sounds so much more. And the retranslation. I mean, as much as it fucks me up because I'm nostalgic for the old version, the translation is so much better. Just way better. It's like it's very like Shakespearean. There's a lot of like these and thous and those.
There is a lot of that stuff. That also can be a little bit difficult sometimes.
It gets difficult to parse, but I think a lot of that is like really good. There's a lot of
yeah. It makes sense, right? It makes sense. It's done appropriately. One little historical tidbit that I forgot to mention: the creator of the main guy behind Tactics, I forget his name, apparently got a lot of ideas for the story for Tactics Ogre from like a World War One war or something era, and then like for Final Fantasy Tactics, got it from a medieval similar story called the War of the Roses. There was like this battle between two houses and stuff like that. So do some research in the War of the Roses, and that's why like the War of the Lions kind of a play on that. So.
I thought you were going to say by time traveling to the future and reading George R.R. Martin's book, Song of Ice and Fire.
Yeah,
this is so much Game of Thrones. I can't even believe how much.
If you like Game of Thrones and you're always looking for like what's the best Squaresoft game for me to play,
yeah. No, if you like the story of Game of Thrones and want a different crazy ending, because the ending of this game is also crazy. I mean, it's not quite as.
You thought the Red Wedding was bad,
right? Yeah, there's some crazy shit in this game, but no, I don't know. If you like Game of Thrones, you're gonna like Final Fantasy Tactics, the story at least.
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
You guys, it's just you. It's just you and me. Justin is babysitting his kid tonight, so hopefully he will be back soon. Do you want to endorse some stuff?
I do want to endorse some stuff. A couple of things. Number one, I'd like to endorse getting the hell out of Florida.
Yeah.
That's one of the best things I've done. Woo, man, I just visited Florida for 2 weeks. I saw you, James. It was fun.
It's in the summertime, and it's fucking brutal right now.
I do not miss that summer Florida.
No. Just don't go outside.
We drove down and we were nice and chilled in my little truck and everything, and like we left North Carolina, or maybe we were like Savannah area still, but like we got to Florida, opened the door, and it just felt like opening like an oven that's been like cranked up to 400. It's just like, oh god, this humid heat at night too. Like that weekend that we left, dude, we came back up here, and at night it was just like 60 degrees, and like we're hanging out on the porch, and it's like feeling a breeze. It's like this doesn't happen in Florida in July,
No, it's just brutal all the time. Even at night, it's like humid and sticky.
Yeah. If you are in Florida, get out. That's my advice. But I can understand, there are people who have reasons to stay. But my real endorsement, James, I think you endorsed Gloomhaven last episode,
Yeah.
right? Well, I'm going to endorse Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion.
Oh, hell yeah.
So piggybacking on James's endorsement to re-endorse the Gloomhaven game, but also specifically the Jaws of the Lion box, which James told me about when I was there visiting. So speaking of FF Tactics and tactical strategy games, it seems like in the last couple of years there's been this kind of really interesting genre of board games becoming more popular that I guess they call the dungeon crawler genre. But it is like Gloomhaven, and in my newly crowned favorite board game of all time, Zombicide, they're very like tactics like in a way. They're like tactics
definitely
board games. You know, you have characters with somewhat special abilities, maybe different jobs and classes, and then you've got rooms and squares, or zones or hexes, and you're moving into them. You're thinking about the enemy moves and the turn orders and what they're going to do, and it's a very similar feel. So as a person who now has crowned FF Tactics as his favorite Final Fantasy of all time, I just like tactical strategy games. So yeah, if you don't want to hear me blabber about it, if James has already done it, but Gloomhaven is very, very good. And of course, any board game that takes dice rolling away and turns it into a card-based strategy is a +1 in my book. The only reason I would say that Zombicide has the +1 on above Gloomhaven for like my favorite board game right now is just because I can just sit down and play it with anybody. Like it's more simple.
Yeah.
It's dice rolling.
It's faster, more accessible. You can teach it quickly. Yeah.
Right. Gloomhaven, like you kind of have to have like a dedicated group or like
yeah.
So, but I do have a dedicated group now, and I'm playing it. We're
hell yeah
scenarios in.
Hell yeah! Ooh.
I'm loving it. It's
nice. So I think we're a little past halfway. I think we're getting towards.
Are you playing through Jaws though? Or are you playing through the core?
No, I'm playing through Jaws of the Line.
Okay, yeah. So Jaws is really a great introduction to because if I was to sit down and play Gloomhaven, like the core game, I would have been lost. I think I'm not necessarily the best at like picking up the really, really advanced.
No, yeah. If you want to get into Gloomhaven, if you want to learn how to play Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion is the best way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I will re-endorse Gloomhaven and suggest Jaws of the Lion for folks.
I've got a whole smorgasbord of endorsements. I'm going to start with on YouTube. If you liked the soundtrack to Final Fantasy Tactics, I'm going to endorse Googling Final Fantasy Tactics Ophelia's Theme Opera. It is a fan-made music video where they turn Ophelia's theme into a duet between Ophelia and Delita. It is very well performed, very good. Watch that. I'm going to endorse a video game with a bunch of qualifiers. So we're in full swing of our generation. We're mid 30 somethings. Our generation specifically is now in the full swing of, hey, let's reboot, remake anything that you grew up with in the 90s. Movies, TV shows, it's all coming back. Hey, remember that thing you loved? It's coming back. There is one specific type of game that has not been remade and probably never will be remade. And I am very nostalgic for PS1 era games with pre-rendered backgrounds. So like I'm talking the first 3 Resident Evil games, the 3 Final Fantasies 7 through 9, Parasite Eve, like those games. There's something about those games, especially like the backgrounds. I know the character models look terrible in most of those games, but the backgrounds are these really nice, I don't know, drawings or like computer renders. I think it's a little column A, column B, and they just look really nice. And usually, the
Octa game tried to bring it back a little bit, right? The
Octopath Traveler was more of a like they called it like HD 2D. So it's kind of like, what if pixel art was in 3 dimensions? And yeah, Octopath Traveler and to a lesser extent, Bravely Default has that art style, but not quite to the same degree that Octopath has. No, I'm talking about if you can think back to the original Resident Evil, or even the Resident Evil 1 remake, had all those pre-rendered backgrounds, and they look just so nice. And I was like, man, I want to play more games like that, and I don't think games like that are ever going to get remade because it requires a lot of time to go draw or render all of those backgrounds. So, and it takes, talent to draw and render those. And it takes, and especially those games had great soundtracks. Anyway, the point I'm trying to arrive at was, I was like, hey, I don't think games like this are going to get remade. I am going to go retry Chrono Cross. And I always remember Chrono Cross as like the slightly disappointing sequel to Chrono Trigger. And it is. It still is. But I will endorse Chrono Cross, Jesus, with some qualifiers. First of all, you have to be nostalgic for that era of games, I think. You have to understand that Chrono Cross is not Chrono Trigger. Just pretend that game has absolutely nothing to do with Chrono Trigger at all, which is great for 95% of the game, and then the last 5% where they like kind of sort of tie it back to the events of Chrono Trigger, and you're like, oh, that's interesting. So just be surprised by that. Don't expect Chrono Trigger at all. Understand that game's second half is not going to be as good as its first half, and understand that like we were saying with a lot of tactical strategy games, most of the characters in Chrono Cross, because there's 50 playable characters or something along those lines, 40-something playable characters, most of those characters don't get any character development. They're just people you can fight with. Understand that, and understand that the story gets a little weird, like most RPGs. So as long with those 5 qualifiers, which I realize are pretty hefty qualifiers, like pretty big asterisks, with those 5 asterisks, I will endorse Chrono Cross. It's okay. It's very okay.
It's very okay.
Here's the thing, though. I will endorse Chrono Cross if you like music, because I will say, hands down, uncontested champion of video game music. What has a better soundtrack than Chrono Cross?
FF8.
I say FF8 is Uematsu's best work. I would still take Chrono Cross over FF8. It's and I like Uematsu. I mean, I also like Mitsuda, but I would take Uematsu's entire body of work over Mitsuda's, but just as one compilation of tracks. I mean, Chrono Cross just has banger after banger, as the kids would say. Chrono Cross is just so good. Every track is amazing. Amazing.
The
nope. That's Wild Arms. You're singing Wild Arms right now.
Oh, I love that song.
No, you're thinking of That's the opening theme to Chrono Cross.
That's good.
Time Scar is a really good song. Anyway, Chrono Cross. I have more endorsements, but I'm going to save them for next week because I spent so much fucking time talking about Chrono Cross, which is a very average game with an amazing soundtrack.
So you want to play it to listen to the soundtrack?
I'm playing it to listen to the soundtrack and look at the pre-rendered backgrounds, and I'm just trying to, that's my reason for playing it.
Okay. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, that's what I got. That's what I got. All right. Is that a show?
Wrap. I think that's
all right. Cool. Great. Awesome. For the good. Our next episode may or may not be Mario Golf Super Rush. And also, hey, maybe we'll hang on. What else is on our calendar? This is a sneak preview. No promises. It might be Mario Golf. We might be doing 2 Final Fantasy games back to back. Could be Final Fantasy 14. We've also got League of Legends on our calendar. So I don't know. Could be one of those 3 games. Stick around and find out. Hopefully, it won't be another month in between episodes. Hopefully we're all going to be around.
Summer travels.
Yeah. All right, for the Good Games podcast, I'm James.
I'm Leo.
We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
See ya.
Oh, it's absolutely. This is Game of Thrones before Game of Thrones. Yeah.
Right. The rumors coming through the rumor mill and the taverns and like recruiting.
Hey, everything's going to shit tonight. All right, this is fantastic. A lot of editing I'm gonna have to do on this recording.
We may